So you've heard about where people say, oh, stress could be the source of high blood pressure. That's when your nervous system is involved. So some people are taught to have hypersensitive sympathetic nervous system. Like they react, their flight response is very active. Like they get nervous, they get scared. I don't want to use the word scared. They get like abnormal, like the sympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of your flight response, like when you react to fear, is very hyperactive. So that way there's a chemical that is always high, elevated. So when this chemical is elevated, is working on the arteries of your body and causing your vessels to contract. And when it contracts, it raises blood pressure. So that's one reason. Remember, I said essential primary high blood pressure, science is not really sure, but these are the areas that they have been that they are suspecting, and that's when we talk about treatment, they are targeting these areas of the body, treating the pathway of the nervous system in controlling high blood pressure, right? So that's one. So stress, panic attacks, high anxiety level can be the source of high blood pressure. So that way the treatment model will be medications that will act on the nervous pathway, or it could be behavioral, like to teach you how to not be scared, how to do like sensitization to your fear factor. That way that calms you down. Like there's some people who get very nervous. Okay, I'll give you guys a very funny example. I used to be so scared of taking the elevator, especially when I know it's gonna be a very tall building. I used to get so scared. So I took a class, about a psychology class, and then I also read a book about the brain, and then I also took also scriptures from the Bible to help me fight never like fear. So what at the end of the day, what I learned was go confront your fear. So that's a behavioral therapy. So what I did alone on a free day, I just go take an elevator alone and I'm there. So I did that up and down several times, and after that, that's called sensitization. I overcame that fear. And I believe if my blood pressure was going up before, when I get into the elevator, it shouldn't be at that time. So that's a model of treating that oversensitivity to sympathetic nervous system. That's one. And then the other one is, let's talk about the kidney also. The kidney also is involved in controlling high blood pressure. The kidney releases a chemical. I don't know if there's any name mentioning that chemical. Let's say renin, right? Is involved in blood pressure. For some people, it is thought that they produce this renin or this chemical. It's usually their production is high. Overproduction of this chemical, because this chemical causes raised blood pressure. When I say raised blood pressure, remember, I'm talking about constriction of the blood vessels. When it's tight, think about when something is, I wish I can see something to explain it. So think about when you have okay, let's leave it that way. So when the blood pressure, when the vessels of the body is squeezing, so think about when the hole is supposed to be this way and it gets smaller, right? It constricts. It means blood through here, the pressure. Think about trying to force fluid here. It's going to be very difficult. So the pressure will be high. But if you open it up wider, the blood will flow freely and the pressure will be less, right? So that's one mechanism. Remember, these chemicals make the blood vessels tighter and forces blood through the vessels, and blood pressure is high. So the things that does these things, like I said, the kidney is involved. So that's why when we talk about treatment, we're going to be talking about medications that will target the kidney. And remember, smoking also constricts the blood vessels, right? Our blood vessels have chemicals that helps the blood vessels open wider, like they call it dilation, and blood is flowing freely and happy going down through the body. But when you have chemicals that makes those blood vessels smaller and tighter, so the flow of blood becomes very difficult, so the pressure will be high, and what happens, your heart will begin to work harder to get blood around the body. Remember, it's your heart pumping the blood around. So if anything makes the blood vessels tighter, it means your heart will be working a little bit harder, trying to force the blood through those blood vessels, and over time you hear of heart failure, right? So what medication does, or what the healthy habits I'll teach you today does, is to help open up those vessels. So when you open up those vessels, blood will flow freely and your blood pressure will drop or become normal again. So talking about renin, or talking about the kidney, with blacks, research shows that blacks we have what is called sodium retention. So our sensitivity to sodium, it's let me use a word like abnormal. So we have the tendency of retaining sodium. That's why if you have high blood pressure, you notice that the medication that your doctor will prescribe for you is different from what like Caucasians we have, because we Black Africans, like they say, we have tendency of retaining sodium. So we retain sodium a lot. That's why sodium is gonna be a huge topic on today's video. Please make sure you watch the other part, because I'm gonna be talking about sodium, potassium, to see how you can do this. So I'm not gonna go into medication. I want you to understand how now sodium is one electrolyte, or one chemical, let me use it that way, one chemical that is involved. So if your body is keeping sodium, if your kidney is retaining sodium, sodium will pull water into your body, raises blood pressure, makes your heart work harder. That's high blood pressure. But if you're able to take out sodium, I don't mean, if you're able to reduce sodium, it means your blood pressure will be lower. So there's another chemical, let me call it mineral, electrolyte, we call that, called potassium. Potassium, it's one electrolyte that combats sodium, right? So sodium here in this area is the enemy, right? But potassium is the one that combats your sodium. So think about it this way, so scientifically, medications will target sodium, will target removing sodium and giving you what? More potassium, or helping you urinate or pass out the sodium in your urine. That's why some medications they make you pee a lot, like the diuretics will make you pee a lot and pass out the sodium. Some will help you pass out the sodium and retain potassium. Some class of medications helps you retain potassium. So going back to African Americans, if you find out we have like 4 major classes of high blood pressure medications that you'll be started on initially, but there are other ones that will be involved later, like if you have uncontrolled or resistant high blood pressure, or you have other issues like kidney failure, heart failure, there are other medications that will be added. But the 4 major ones, like I said, we have the A, like the ACE, the ARBs, if you're on like losartan, those medications are very good. If you're on B, like the beta blockers, and then like the C, the calcium channel blockers, and then the D, the diuretics, are the 4 major ones. There are other ones, like I told you, that can be used. But for African Americans, you find out that we use a lot the C, which is the calcium channel blockers, and the D, which is a diuretic. So the calcium channel blockers is calcium. They help you remove calcium from flowing into the heart. Remember, the calcium will make your heart contract more, right? Which means working harder. And so what calcium channel blockers does is to help reduce contraction of the heart. Then the last class, diuretic, will help you pee. If you notice, if you're on diuretic, it will make you pee a lot. And the reason why is so that you can pee out the sodium, right? Because sodium is not good for the body. So I hope you understand that I picked the African American so that you can understand that your doctor cannot just put you on any medication. So because you're sodium insensitive, they put you more on the calcium channel blockers, like the medications that end in the pin, the nifedipine, amlodipine, or you on the diuretics. The high one is the thiazide. Like the thiazide, you see that most of you are on those two medications. The beta blockers like the metoprolol or the losartan, lisinopril, those also get prescribed later on, especially if you have diabetes or if you have kidney failure. So now I want you to appreciate all that I have just said about the body, the brain, the kidney, the sodium, the potassium, the calcium. And then now let's implement this in the area of upstream health. So in the area of upstream health, we're gonna implement that idea in food. In what food? And that will be in our next video.